Are you waiting on a lightning strike? Are you waiting for the perfect night?
Welcome to Unstoppable Angels. Thank you for listening in. This is where we're going to talk about turning your pain into power and becoming unstoppable. Today's guest, Emily Killeen, is a sobriety coach, spiritual yoga teacher, and a transformational retreat facilitator. She believes that connection, community, and accountability, along with some sort of spirituality and health and wellness, are essential for sobriety success. Hi, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
I'm excited to hear more of your story. I really can understand and feel for you and your 15 years, I hear now, of going through this journey. Or is it longer than that? Oh, longer than that. Okay.
I've been on the journey for 15 years. I have not been sober for 15 years.
I get it. Okay. I completely understand. You're like, I wasn't there all that time. All right. I get that. That makes perfect sense.
For that. But I've been working on it for a very long time. So yeah, I've got 3 years and 3 months of solid sobriety this time around. So
proud of you. That's absolutely amazing. All right. So let's go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your life, where you're from. You know, they say most of our personality is developed when we're, before we turn 7. So I like to ask these questions because I want to find out, what made Emily?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So I'm from I'm from the Madison, Wisconsin area. I grew up in a small town called Cross Plains, like 3,000 people. I had a really loving family, but my parents definitely liked to drink. And so drinking was a big part of the culture in my friends and family. And I also didn't really think that it was a problem because that's what everyone did. And we got to go camping and like the parents were drinking, but the kids were running free and playing. I grew up in a small town, like I mentioned, so I could go to the bowling alley or to the pool or just kind of have like free reign. So I was a really adventurous kid. I was in sports, so I did dance and t-ball, and I just had a lot of fun growing up, and always kind of had an entrepreneur spirit, actually. So my dad did gardening, and we would have like the little gourds and pumpkins, and I would go outside of the bowling alley because we lived right next door to the bowling alley, and I would sell the gourds and pumpkins, and that was fun for me, and that like kind of continued through my life with the entrepreneurship, but so did the drinking. So because I saw that that's what my parents did for fun, actually, this is how I got the idea. They had given me tastes of drinks before, but I thought it tasted disgusting. So I didn't understand why the parents were drinking the alcohol until health class in about 7th grade, when they put the drunk goggles on us and we felt all silly. And I'm like, this is why we drink. It's fun and silly. So on the next early release school day, when the teachers go into meetings and we get out at noon, I brought some of my friends over and I was like, let's raid my parents' alcohol cabinet. Well, I didn't realize how the effects worked and that I would be drunk for a very long time with the amount that I drank. And I did actually black out that day. My mom came home from work at 5 o'clock and my friends like tucked me into bed and got out of there. And yeah, that was the beginning of my drinking career. So, I mean, that's a huge part of my story. And now I'm a sobriety.
Okay. How old were you at this time?
I was 12 or 13.
I think I have sort of a similar story around that same age. I personally didn't choose to drink at this particular moment in time. I went to a amusement park and my girlfriend decided to tell me she's now seeing my boyfriend. I was 13, I should have had a boyfriend, these young kid things, right? And so she gives me this, she's like, do you want this Coke? And she gives me Coke and I chugged it, not realizing it was whiskey. And I too had a lovely blackout experience at 13. I probably should have learned from it. Okay, so you're 13 years old, you have your first blackout. Mm-hmm. Hold on, pause for 1 second. Sorry, did you hear those pause? That would be both my kids. Can you pause for 1 second? All right, so we have gone over the fact that at 13 you've blacked out, and unfortunately I've had somewhat of the same experience, but that's for a different day. So what happened next?
Well, I went into middle school and high school, and I was kind of the party girl, and I kept it together, though. I didn't get into that much trouble. You know, I still had good grades. I was on dance team all 4 years. But when I hit college and I was out on my own, I went to the tech college. So I didn't have to go to the dorm. So I got to live in an apartment with my party friends. And things really started to go downhill. I got a fake ID. I got into drugs. I started staying up all night. I stopped going to school. I stopped going to work. All of these things that were really important to me in the past, I just really didn't care. And my addiction really started to spiral at this time. Luckily, when I was about 13, 14, that's when my mom got sober. So it was really interesting. She got sober and I was just starting to drink. So I was like, this isn't fair. So I think I had some, I think some of my not loving authority has come from that situation, which is really interesting. But I went to my first AA meeting when I was only 19 years old because I was falling apart and I didn't know what else to do. And that's what my mom did. But I wasn't ready to get sober. So that's where my 15 years started, from the first AA meeting that I went to, and just began to dabble.
When you got into drugs, what kind of drugs were you getting into?
So first it was cocaine and ecstasy mainly. And then every once in a while, if I went to a music festival, I would do acid, mushrooms, DMT, really anything. I, only did heroin once and I snorted it, which I haven't really said that publicly, but it is what it is. I mean, I've done pretty much everything. And then later on, in my early 30s, after I moved to California, which is, I started doing meth. So I did meth for like 6 months. So
when
I've done a lot of them.
When you got into the drinking and drugs and all that, was there a facilitator? Was there something that happened that brought that on?
Can you say, I'm sorry.
When you got into all of that, normally I've noticed that if you get into, I did lots and lots of drugs myself. These aren't real. I can tell you right now. I mean, I had my party times and it's something that I've had to finally accept and speak about because it is who I am. But there were things that happened to me that drew me in to this kind of lifestyle. So was there any kind of an event that was a catalyst for getting into this kind of party lifestyle?
People say that, and I do believe there was probably a few traumatic events that happened when I was younger that I haven't totally uncovered yet. But I've always felt, and I still kind of feel, like I just wanted to be around people. And so much of it was like going out and being around people and having fun. I loved going to see live music because I was dancing. And I do believe that I have it in my genes because it's hereditary. So I wasn't raped or anything. And my drugs started when I hit 18. But when I was 21, my brother, who also had a drinking problem, did get in a drunk driving accident. And he was driving his truck and he was taking some back road because he thought he was going to be sneaky, and he flipped his truck and it had gasoline in it for his boat, and the truck blew up and my brother died. When I was 21 and he was 25. I was on a 2-day bender when I found out. My parents were calling me and texting me and I wasn't answering, and they showed up at my door, and I had been up for 2 days and I was on alcohol, cocaine, ecstasy. And so that was traumatic, but I had already been on my journey. So that didn't help at all.
No, I can't even imagine that. I'm sorry. I can't even. It's like, okay. So at this point, now you're at a low, obviously. You've been dealing with this for a while. Your brother, how did you handle that situation?
Well, I cried and drank, but I would have periods of sobriety because my mom was sober and I knew that I had a problem. So I would string together, a week here, a week there, 2 weeks, but then I would go on another bender. So I would have sober time where I was kind of dealing with the grief. My parents were really good about, we had a celebration of life and we talked about it. His funeral was actually on the 4th of July to kind of be more of a celebration type thing. So I do feel like I dealt with the feelings. It was definitely emotional. I cried, from time to time and talked about it a lot. I didn't get a therapist or anything like that, but I had a lot of family and friend support, but I continued to drink just like the path that I was on before that happened. Nothing really changed there.
So how old are you at this time?
I'm 37.
30 at the time that your brother passed away?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant this time,
No.
like right now. That time I was 21.
So what's the next steps for you?
At that point, at 21, what did I do? Okay. So I kept drinking and partying until I would lose another job and be like, Mom and Dad, I need help. And at some point I did find outpatient recovery, this place in Madison, Wisconsin called Connections. And it really did change my life because it was something that was other than AA. And I didn't totally resonate with the 12-step program, but it was still a recovery group. I started to feel connection there. And then they also really encouraged us to do sober activities. So like going bowling and hiking and stuff like that, because I had all of my friends were party friends. All of my friends went to concerts and festivals. So I couldn't see what my life would look like. I thought that everyone that was sober was dorky. And I was like, what do you even do when you're, in your early 20s if you're not drinking? So the outpatient helped. I started to stack up like 1 month, 3 months, a little bit more time. But I would still keep partying up. I wasn't ready to give up the party lifestyle. So really what happened after that is I found yoga when I was in my late 20s. And that was the most pivotal point in my recovery journey because I connected with my breath and I connected with the movement and the music, which is similar to what I was kind of craving from missing the dancing, but also the community. And for the first time, I got purpose and passion because I figured out I want to become a yoga teacher. I want to teach this. And then I was like, I want to open a yoga studio, the entrepreneurship coming back in. And it really shifted to have that purpose and passion in my heart. And I was able to stack up more time, but I still wasn't done. So, yeah.
So you started yoga. So you're starting to figure things out. You're starting to get your breath under control. Your life was is it a little more stable at this point? Or are you still, in the weeds going through and tumbling along? I mean, because I know how that is. You like get to a point, you're like, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. Everything's great. Oh yay, let's go to this party and off on it again, right? So you're doing yoga. What was your next step?
Well, to answer your first question, was I stable? I did get 6 months of sobriety. So that's a pretty good chunk. And you were slipping up as much as you are at that point. So I was feeling pretty stable, but I think I finished my yoga teacher training. And shortly after that, I hit 6 months of sobriety. Shortly after that, my boyfriend at the time got out of jail. That's a whole nother story. And I drank on my 6-month anniversary to be like, woo. And then from there, I kind of started to fall out again. And I was moving to California. And so I got that 6 months of sobriety, moved to California, hung out on a weed farm where I was trimming weed to make money. Someone took my car down to the store and ended up totaling it because they actually went to the casino and got drunk. I mean, my life was just a mess. So I made my way down to San Diego, which was the initial plan. And I was still working on sobriety. I had one friend there. I think I made it like a week without drinking. The first night I met up with her to go out, I drank, I blacked out, I stayed up all night, I went to the store, got a bottle of champagne and drove to the airport and got a plane ticket all in a blackout and flew back up to the weed farm because there was this guy that I liked and woke up on the plane out of my blackout, realizing what I had done.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like. That's normally when we're looking at things. What I'm trying to to do is show the journey, the actual journey, because everybody sees our destination and where we're at, and they think, wow, they're so lucky. It was just so easy. And what I found is that that's not the case, that anyone who is very successful has a story. And those are the stories I want to tell, because your story is somebody else's lifeline. And now that you teach retreats to help with sobriety, it is literally someone's lifeline to understand that there's never a time that's too late. They can at any time decide. And that decision, if you mess that up, you can decide again. And you have that ability to keep deciding that each day it's going to be better. And that's why I'm asking the questions I am. And it's kind of stretchy. And sometimes people don't want to talk about it, but I want to give the truth. Like, my story, when I was telling it, was the first time I had ever told it. And it was petrifying to me to really actually sit there and say, you know, I did this, this, and this. But I had so many people come to me and say, you know what, that was my story too. And thank you for sharing it, letting other people know that it's okay, because we are successful now and we have made it a lot further than we were before. So, all right, we're going through this. You're working on a weed farm.
Okay, so I was at this weed farm trimming weed, making money to move to San Diego, which was the ultimate goal. Living out of a tent. I had drove from Wisconsin to California, which actually my boyfriend that was in jail was going to move to California with me, but he was on probation and couldn't come at that time. I ended up cheating on him on the weed farm. And I told Mark that I didn't want him to come out to California anymore. So now I'm on my own and I'm drinking heavily. I have no one to take care of me or watch me. I was a shit show, excuse the language. But so I did get it together. Well, I don't remember if the car part. Okay, so someone had used my car to run an errand, but they actually went to a casino and they were drinking and they totaled my car. They hit a deer. And so this was like my lifeline to get down to San Diego. It was a mess. I was able to get insurance, but had to rent a car, a Jeep, to put all my belongings because I was moving to get down to San Diego. I finally get to San Diego. I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on my sobriety. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a new car. It's going to be good. So I get a job. I get an apartment real quick because I was good at that. And then I went out with my only friend in San Diego and I got drunk. The first night that I got drunk in San Diego, I blacked out and I stayed up all night. I don't remember all of this, but this is the pieces that I put together. I went and bought a bottle of champagne, which I was driving around with, drinking out of the bottle. I think I went home to grab a couple of things, but did not pack a bag. I drove to the airport, parked somewhere, somehow made it into the airport and I purchased a ticket from Virgin Airlines to get on a plane to fly back up to San Francisco to see this guy that I had liked. And I was blacked out the whole time. And it wasn't until I was on the flight going up there that I came to out of my blackout. Gosh, and the person didn't know I was coming. I didn't have any transportation to get from the airport to his house. It was a mess. I stayed there for a few days. And by the time when I went back down to San Diego, my car was nowhere to be found. And by the way, this is a new car that I had lied about having a job with. And so I didn't even totally own it yet. The financing hadn't gone through and I had lost it. I lost it for like 2 weeks. It wasn't anywhere in one of the airport lots. I ended up renting a bicycle to go around to all the outside lots so I could try to find this car. It took me 2 weeks to find the car. And so that's the type of stuff that I did when I was drunk. And I could just do all of these things in a blackout. You know what I mean? Like go to a counter, buy a plane ticket, get on the plane. And I do remember this. I think this is what snapped me out of the blackout. I was trying to get them to serve me alcohol on the plane, but they definitely were not going to do that. So So yeah, I make it back down to San Diego, try to work on sobriety again, but I really wasn't stringing even like a few weeks together. And that's when I started to do meth in addition to the other drugs that I was doing and drinking copious amounts of alcohol. But I was also teaching yoga out on Sunset Cliffs and like being like this spiritual yoga teacher and then going on a bender and then going and teaching yoga and then going on a bender. I was living a double life and it was so exhausting. But from the outside, from what I posted, because I never posted pictures of me partying or anything like that, my life looked good on Facebook, but it really wasn't. Yeah.
It's the high heel sprint of the century going on right now.
I've never seen such a determined group of high heel sprinters.
They've got the heel of the tiger, that's for sure.
They're all in European heels.
Competing today are 1-inch heels, 2-inch heels, 3-inch heels, even a 4-incher. And they're on their mark.
Set.
And they're off.
Good form as they round the first curve.
How can they run like that in those European heels?
It's the cork foundation in the shoes. It acts like a natural shock absorber.
If they can run on these heels, they can do anything.
They're pounding that pavement like a herd of gazelle. So far, nobody's tumbled to the ground.
They're approaching the finish line.
Hey, you know, you'd look good in a pair of those heels.
I would look fantastic, and I could run like the wind.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I could keep running in these 4-inch heels all day long.
I thought for sure I would break an ankle, but I could run all day.
Fall in love with heels again. You can't beat the feel of a European heel. European heels. Heels without the hurt.
So after this, you're now, okay, we've gone through this. You're running a double life for sure. And you're teaching yoga and you're doing all this and all of it seems to be looking amazing on, that they say that our Facebook is a highlight reel. They have no idea how much that is true. All right. So we have that highlight reel going. Everything seems to be flowing in one direction. What was that pivotal moment that changed it all for you?
I don't have one pivotal moment. I have a couple, but I'll share the one that happened at that moment, at that period of time. I was out partying and my mom was coming to visit. She was coming to visit from Wisconsin and I was going to pick her up at the airport, but I was on a bender and I ended up passing out and she took a cab to my apartment because she knew where I lived and found me passed out. It was her first time coming to visit me in California. And she also found meth that my downstairs neighbor had left under a rock for me because I must have requested that so I could like get through and meet up with my mom, which makes no sense. That's how far gone I was. I would never do that in sobriety, obviously. So she was like, you need to get out of this apartment. You need to get into outpatient treatment. Like I am not leaving California until that happens. Cause she now knows that my downstairs neighbor was my dealer. That's how I got into it. And so I did, I got a new apartment in Ocean Beach and I got into outpatient and I stacked up some more time, probably about 3 months. I started to get better. And then I was done with the outpatient and then I started in again, doing the same thing. So it wasn't, and that went on for a while. And then I got 30 days of sobriety on my own at one point. And I met this man who wanted to date me. And I was like, I wonder how long I'll be able to sneak that hide that I have a major problem. And it didn't take very long. First time we drank together, it was a mess. But he stuck with me and we ended up getting engaged eventually and moving to Arizona and buying a 20-acre property, building a retreat facility. We got married. We were the first wedding here. And then we were so stressed building the wedding venue and getting ready for the wedding that shortly after the wedding, I kind of started to lose it. I was like, I deserve to drink. I'm so stressed. We had some issues with some permitting and I ended up getting really drunk one night by myself because I thought that I deserved it. And before that, I was starting to fantasize like, maybe I can just go to a festival once a year or something like that. And I got so sick from drinking that one day because I had been sober about 1.5 years at this point, maybe a little bit longer. So sick, puking, just the next day, couldn't stop puking. And that was the pivotal point. I never had a drink after that because I knew I was working so hard on all of this holistic stuff, the yoga, my business. At that point it was a wedding venue, which we've decided not to be a wedding venue anymore. But I finally realized for the first time that I don't deserve to be hungover. I don't deserve to black out. I don't deserve to put these toxic substances into my body. So yeah, it was more like a self-realization, and like I didn't go to jail. I didn't get a DUI. It wasn't anything like that. Somehow you have the angel wings. And honestly, I feel like my brother, Mike, has been my angel protecting me through all of the things that I've done because it's been a dark road. So.
I really want people to understand as you say it, because we've both gone through leadership. So we are able now to talk about things that were extremely big in our life. And we can almost do it where it doesn't have the same emotional impact as it did, right? We're having a conversation and we're talking about these things, but truly for people to understand where you were and what you were going through. It is very important to note that this isn't a simple road. This is a lot of really, really, really strong, different events that happened, like leaving your mom at an airport and being on a bender, not being there. And it's easy for us to talk about these things now, but for other people who are still there, we feel you. We understand what you're going through. And we now have the tools to be able to have these conversations that we couldn't have done before. And that's what I brought this for, because it takes a lot to be able to have these conversations and not be just crying our eyes out and so emotional that you can't really speak. It's a lot to talk about. And some people are like, your show is so great, but it makes me think about so much. I'm like, that's exactly it. It does. But let's talk about, okay, now you're on this road to recovery. You've been sober for a while now. You've got your retreats going. So tell me what you're doing now that is so amazing and what the success story of this has been.
I love that. That's my favorite part. But before I go into that, I want to just touch on what you just shared, because that's really important, like talking about these heavy topics. And like, I can talk about my brother dying in a very tragic car accident with no tears coming down my face. And also I can talk about those super shameful stories with not feeling shameful anymore. And I think that's because, first of all, I have shared the stories multiple times in recovery. That's what we do, is share our story. But also I'm living in the solution. Like, that is not me anymore. And I do know that substance makes us do things that we wouldn't do sober. Not that I don't get to take responsibility for the things that happen, but I know that's not me, my true soul, who I am. So I just wanted to say that a little bit.
It's very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not who I was 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm not anywhere near that person. And I'm thankful for all of her lessons, but I have wings now. I learned to fly.
I love that. Yeah. So I've learned to fly too. So I like to say that I'm happy, sober, and free, rather than saying, hi, I'm Emily and I'm an alcoholic, because I feel like happy, sober, free is way more empowering. So I moved to Arizona. We decided that we weren't going to do weddings anymore, and I started doing retreats. And so I host women's retreats. Generally, they are for women on the sober path, or at least looking for a sober curious or an alcohol-free experience. And we have a lot of fun. We do yoga, breath work. Sometimes we take a day trip to Sedona. There's sound healing, sharing circles. The food is always amazing. And it's just really a time to connect, because a running theme through even my childhood is I love connecting with other people. Like I mentioned, I grew up in a small town. My mom babysat, the neighbor kids babysat. There was always people around. And so that went into my party years, like wanting to be around all the people in the party. And then when I detracted from that, I felt a little empty, but now my world has opened up so much because I'm connecting in all these healthy ways. So retreats, group coaching, I take leadership trainings and connect with other individuals who might not be on the sober path, but they're on the personal development path. And I've kind of shifted my recovery to personal development. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the inner work. But with the retreats, then I teach yoga, and I felt like there was something more. So I started Googling life coaching things. And I was like, maybe I want to become a life coach. And this ad popped up for this conference that was in Arizona, and I got a free ticket. So I went, and I was like thinking I wanted to become a life coach, maybe a sobriety coach, but I wasn't sure. And one of the speakers said, sometimes your thing, your niche, is so easy that you don't even see it because it's so easy for you and you do it all the time. And I'm like, I've been helping people with sobriety for years and years and years because I've been posting openly and I've been on the journey for so long, even though I didn't stack up like years and years. I've been working on it and sharing about it and helping others. And so I was like, I'm going to become a sobriety coach. And so that's what I did. So I started with one-on-one coaching. And then I actually, in the leadership training that we did after the vision portion, I got a vision to create a 3-month group coaching program because I saw how much connection we can actually have on the Zoom screen. And we're on round 6. We're enrolling for round 6 of this group coaching program. And for me, it's a holistic approach to recovery. So it's something other than the AA model. Lots of people love AA, but lots of people don't. And so my program has a lot of holistic things like how to use essential oils to help with anxiety, how to practice yoga and breath work. We also do work on some self-forgiveness and shame and building confidence and creating a vision for the future. Because for me, that was one of the most pivotal points of my recovery. And I don't feel like it's talked about enough in other models. So really, I've brought all of my favorite things from AA, outpatient, and the yoga journey and packaged it all into one group. And it's been going really well. So I've been helping a lot of women. I have women message me all the time, thanking me for saving their life. And I can't believe it. From where I was before, it's like, sometimes I'm like, who is this person? You know, I really
pinch yourself, right? You're like, can I just pinch myself? Is this real? Well, you know, I think that God has a plan for everybody. And sometimes it takes our darkest journey to find out what our plan was and what we're supposed to create in this world. And I'm so thankful I get to tell your story because there are many women who need a sobriety coach and need someone who's there to support them. And I know that you have a special offer for them. So would you like to tell them what that offer is?
I do have a special offer. So I have a 33-minute gratitude yoga flow, and there's also a 7-minute meditation as well. So you can just put your name and email in the box, and then I will send you the email.
Very cool. And were you doing one-on-one coaching for some if they wanted to get a call or something? Because I know if you're dealing with sobriety and you really want to get some assistance with this, I know Emily is there for you and she is offering a call so that she can talk to you and see if this is a fit for you and see if it's something that you might want to look into further. I understand this journey and I understand where she's coming from with all of these different things that she's gone through. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all works out and having her back on so we can talk about all the cool things that she's up to now. And thank you so much for coming today, Emily. I'm so thankful that you are here and that you are giving women a voice to understand that it's cool to be sober.
It is cool to be sober and it's fun to be sober. And yes, I forgot that I gave you the link for my to book a call with me. So I offer 30-minute complimentary calls, and a lot of people are nervous, of course, before getting on a call like that. Just know that I'm pretty cool and we'll have a good time just connecting, and there's no strings attached. So I offer a Tuesday night Sober Girls Book Club. That's a free meeting. So I have a lot of free offerings in addition to the one-on-one coaching that I could support you with. And then also the 3-month group coaching journey, which is amazing. Recovery Revival round 6 begins on May 5th. So I'm so grateful to just share my story in this way on all these different platforms. And thank you so much for having me on.
Now, wait, I have one thing because it's killing me right now. You're off the grid. How? I gotta know about this. I'm sorry. This is like, I heard off the grid and I'm going, oh wait, I need to ask about this part.
Yeah. So, well, we almost started the interview this way and I wasn't going to share it, but I'll just make it public. I'm actually going through a divorce with love. And that is only because of my recovery and my yoga practice. And I have no desire to drink. So my husband and I bought this 20-acre property. And I would have never moved off grid, but he is kind of like a prepper type guy. And so how? The property is really cheap. So that's the first how. It's only $1,000 an acre where I live in northern Arizona, in the middle of nowhere. So that's the first how. So we bought 10, we fenced it in, and then we were like, I think we want 10 more. So we bought 10 more. And then we've just communicated with people out here in the community. Everyone that's in this neighborhood, everyone has 20, 40, 80 acre parcels. They're all off grid. And so we just got tips. You have to, we have like a tiny home compound that we have going on. We have the large wedding barn, which is now the retreat barn. We had to do, septic system, solar, generator. It's not the easiest thing. People are like, oh yeah, it'd be so cool to live off grid. But like our power situation right now, if I wanted to do laundry in the morning, I can't. I have to wait till the sun comes up. If I want to dry my hair, I got to wait till the sun comes up. So it's a lot of things that people don't think about. We don't have a well because they didn't recommend digging a well, because you could spend $20,000 digging a hole or drilling a hole and not hit water. So we actually get water.
Arizona. Like you are in Arizona.
But there is a well just about a mile away. So there's a water truck that delivers the water. So I don't haul the water myself. Like twice a month, they come and fill up my tank for $80. I've got a big soaking tub. It's just more of the power stuff that I have to be a little bit more mindful. But of course, I'll get more solar panels eventually and hopefully won't have to deal with some of those issues. But yeah, the nearest grocery store is 25 minutes away. The nearest yoga studio is an hour. And the internet is kind of rough out here. I recently just got Starlink, so finally I'm able to actually do interviews like this, but usually I'd have to go into a coffee shop or something like that. So any other questions about it, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, thank you. I think that was, it was very interesting because my husband likes to prep too. So we've been overhauling our RV and we want to put solar in that. You need to have gotta have some sort of a plan. If you have to get off grid, you gotta have a plan, right? So yeah, I just had to ask.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yeah,
Thank
it's really
you
interesting.
again for coming, Emily. It's been such an honor to have you here on Unstoppable Angels. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radicals, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.